Hey, it's Sela Social Studies.
Hey guys, welcome back to Sela Social Studies. Today we're going to be talking about Reconstruction and the Freedmen's Bureau. Now, the Civil War ended, and with the passing of the 13th Amendment, there were nearly 4 million newly freed slaves in the United States. The purpose of Reconstruction was to assist the emancipated and rebuild the South using the combined efforts of whites and blacks alike in the South. There were millions of freed slaves who had no money, land, or housing. The question remained that if the wealthy planters in the South were not going to help African Americans adapt to their new life, then who will? The government was well aware of the arising issue in the South and had a plan that they felt could succeed. The Bureau of Refugees, Freedmen, and Abandoned Lands, known simply as the Freedmen's Bureau, was established by Congress in 1865. Its main purpose was to provide relief for millions of freed people and certain poor people, primarily poor whites, in the South. The Freedmen's Bureau provided food, housing, and medical aid. It established schools and offered legal assistance. The Bureau also attempted to settle many of the emancipated on confiscated land issues to them through Special Field Order 15, which gave 40 acres of plantation land and a mule to free slaves. The idea and the potential of the Freedmen's Bureau should have been limitless. Helping millions of freed slaves and poor whites in the South should not have been an issue. However, the Bureau was never able to live up to its potential due to many different reasons that included the lack of available personnel to run the agency, a lack of federal funding, and the politics of race intertwined with the politics of Reconstruction. The size of the Bureau had stretched all 11 of the former Confederate states and the border states and was organized into specific districts. Each district was controlled by a commissioner. There were no precedents on how the federal government should handle responsibilities regarding a huge refugee population, welfare programs, and housing reform. It was the Bureau itself that set many of these precedents. There was opposition from the beginning. The Freedmen's Bureau faced opposition from many sources. Many white Southerners who still believed that African Americans were inferior opposed any assistance given to the newly freed. After Lincoln was killed in 1865, newly appointed President Andrew Johnson also opposed the organization. The Bureau also suffered from within. People who supported the Bureau and people who worked within the organization disagreed what types of assistance needed to be given. Congress introduced a bill to extend the Bureau's tenure and to give it more legal powers. However, Johnson vetoed that legislation. He stated that the bill interfered with states' rights, it gave preference to Southern blacks, and that it was a cash vacuum sucking money from the federal government. Congress responded by overriding the veto and passing a more slimmed-down version of the bill. Johnson was consistently feuding with radical Republicans, and the Freedmen's Bureau suffered as a result. The Bureau met some substantial goals during the years of existence. However, each goal was met with an equally large failure. The Bureau was not successful as a whole organization because each location and each agent experienced different levels of achievement. The organization as a whole was underfunded and understaffed. At its peak, the Bureau maxed out at 900 agents. Bureau agents worked as social workers and were normally the lone representative for the Southern black and poor whites and were often attacked verbally or physically from whites, including the KKK or the Ku Klux Klan. The Klan felt that the Bureau agents should worry about federal issues and stop interfering with local affairs. Some agents fell victim to attacks and became weary of assisting Southerners. Others were incompetent and corrupt, but the majority were hard-working and brave agents who made incredible contributions to the success of Freedman. Some of the major successes of the Freedmen's Bureau was that it distributed food to millions of people, built hospitals and provided medical aid, offered and provided legal aid by negotiating labor contracts for ex-slaves and settling labor disputes. It also helped former slaves legalize marriages and locate lost relatives, and assisted black veterans as well. The Bureau was also instrumental in establishing 3,000 schools for blacks and several universities like Howard University in Washington, D.C., Fisk University in Nashville, Tennessee, and Hampton University in Hampton, Virginia. The Freedmen's Bureau introduced the federal government into issues of social welfare and labor relations and lasted for 7 years between 1865 and 1872. In mid-1872, a lack of funding, along with the pressure from white Southerners and disinterest by Northerners, forced Congress to dismantle and end the Bureau. It was easy to say that these were the only reasons for the agency's downfall, but the facts need to be stated to show how the agency was built for failure. From the beginning of the agency, the North was fully funding the agency, and Northerners were quickly losing interest because it became so expensive to operate, and funds were running out, aiding a struggling Northern economy. The lack of support overflowed into the amount of agents to support the Bureau, reaching 900 at its apex. One can debate whether the Freedmen's Bureau was a success or failure. It was able to provide relief for Southern blacks and poor whites for a short period of time. However, it was never able to live up to its full potential. The race division in Southern states was a mountain to overcome, and it came up short. It was not able to carry out all of its initiatives, and it failed to provide long-term protection for blacks or ensure any real measure of racial equality. I'll see you next time.